Alright, class is in session. I don't know if you've seen this before, but this is the Buddhist cosmos. Beginning at the very top, you have the formless realms, then you have the form realm, and then the desire realm here, of which our earthly world, Manusha Loka, is the lowest piece. And then below this, you have the hells, animal consciousness, the hungry ghosts, and whatnot. Now, the explanation from the East about how this all came into being, basically, is that you have an infinite field of awareness which took form into a created being. You could think of this as like the cosmic atom or the logos or something of that nature. This being began to scrutinize itself as it woke up, and it saw itself and others, and it started to wonder, hey, what the hell's going on? Who's this person? What am I? And the story goes that it became more and more coarse as it began to desire things like food and intercourse. And it slowly and gradually descended into more and more coarse forms of existence. Until we find ourselves, down here in Manusha Loka, as human beings who are part and parcel of that infinite awareness, coming to realize its own awareness, coming to become self-aware. All of the infinite universes are an extension of this original primordial awareness, gradually becoming more coarse and dense, and appearing to develop consciousness and self-awareness of itself. It's important to remember that time is a little bit funky in Eastern systems, so as it reads here on the chart, one day in the lifetime of these Brahma Devas, of these light forms, which are very close to the original primordial condition, is seen to be millions of years from our perspective. All of this is a relative process, so collective consciousnesses at various dimensional scales are fields of relativity. So from our perspective, a lot of time has gone by for us to reach these forms where we're attaining self-awareness. But from the perspective of Brahma here at the pinnacle of being, all of time and space, past, present, future, he's experienced it simultaneously. So his original fall from the pleroma and our coming into self-awareness are the same process. It's just a different relativistic field. Now, when we get so close down here, where consciousness is thoroughly dualistic, where the light of the soul has transmogrified into a very coarse and dense matter and obscured itself from being perceived, we are struggling with dualistic passions that sometimes overcome us and cause us to be reborn down here in the hell. So the hells are kind of like a full descent from unity and love into dualistic violence and torture, which is experienced endlessly. Now, us as sentient beings in Manusha Loka, down here on the earth, our psyches are thoroughly fractured into self and other. We are plagued with unconscious psychological complexes where we're not able to perfectly actualize our desires, and we have to deal with these nasty passions coming from the animal and hell realm, of which we are very close. But as you have the sublimation of matter and consciousness up the scale, you get into the higher realms of the desire realm, where the collective consciousness of these beings is able to manifest their desires at will. See, the second from the top realm of the desire realm here has devas, or light beings, which are able to derive pleasure from desires that they're able to manifest perfectly just with their mind. Strangely enough, right above that, you have the realm of Mara, which is the devas that delight in creating desires for others. Kind of like TikTok, right? Now, Mara, strangely enough, would be considered something of a Satan in the Abrahamic tradition. When the Buddha was just about to achieve enlightenment, Mara took the image of his false ego and appeared before the Buddha to try to delude him, and the Buddha told him, Mara, you will not erect your house again here. So that's like the last level of dualistic consciousness, and then you have a unified field of blissful awareness which becomes closer and closer to the pleroma. So basically what I'm saying is that you have in this system an eternal return where the infinite pleroma takes on a type of subjectivity which emerges as a dualistic, slowly corsifying field of worlds until finally you have the ultimate externalization and dualistic effect, which is manifest as the hells of violence and torture and false identification with the passions and forms and whatnot. On the other side of that, you have the ascension of consciousness and life into more pure and pure light forms until they are reunited with the pleroma. That is nirvana. So, like I'm going to make the case of in my book, New Logical Entities, which should be out soon, I'm working on the last chapters. In the human form of life which we find ourselves in, our psyches contain the subtle imprints of our karma, which from time to time manifest as the sentient beings which we emerge into from between death and life. And so these karmas and these unconscious complexes of self and other and the false ego and the shadow, which is the hallmark of our earth, where character is developed, by the way. Everybody from the East and the West definitely agrees that that's where character is built on the earth, are obscured from one another. And so this whole process of our developing a shadow and an unconscious, where our inner light, our soul is not revealed to one another, kind of perpetuates itself and keeps us stuck in these lower gradations of matter. But it is entirely possible for the elevation of our consciousness, for the working out of our unconscious complexes to sublimate these, raw passions which emerge as animal, ghost, and hellish forms of consciousness, and to raise the matter of the earth into a higher and higher degree. Now, I make the case in my book that the inside and the outside are really one. And it's really that false discrimination of the false ego and the shadow which sees a difference between the inside and the outside. So, as that is realized more and more, that the inner form of the soul is who we are, and we resolve these unconscious patterns which have kind of accrued from our karma and our physical forms, we can evolve into a type of reality where we can manifest our desires at will in a mental kind of heavenly abode. Ultimately, those desires are sublimated until they transform into enlightenment and spiritual awareness and bliss as we progress towards the pleroma. The desire realm is low forms of gods like us into higher forms of gods like the devas, which can create things with their minds. And then over this barrier here into the fine material realm, the form realm, you only have Buddhas, enlightened beings, sages, and whatnot, who have sublimated their desires and their individuality and are slowly unpacking the contents of their soul relative to one another as relativistic unified fields of awareness, as the potency ascends more and more and more back into the infinite pleroma. So what I'm saying here basically is you have an eternal return where the sentient beings emerge from Brahma into the most polarized and violent dualistic expressions in hell, and then return back with this new identity that they've developed here as individual sentient beings into Buddhas and back into the pleroma like a divine orgasm into the Father. Just like a yogi will constrict his semen from outflowing and draw it back up into the pineal gland to attain immortality. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.